Welcome back. The Council of the Federation, those first ministers' meetings in Muskoka just wrapped up with discussions expanding beyond U.S. trade to include things like interprovincial tariffs, healthcare, immigration, and public safety. We're joined by New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt, who's fresh from those meetings in Haliburton, Ontario. Good to see you, Premier. Hey, I'd like to pick up on a comment you made in the news conference that you've seen your fellow premiers more in the 8 months that you've been in office than your predecessor would have in 6 years. You've met a lot, and I'm wondering, there seems to be a collegiality there, and I'm wondering how that might impact or benefit things like negotiations with other provinces.
Yeah, I think it really does give us the opportunity to build relationships and then to extend those relationships beyond just the conversations that you might have in one meeting twice a year to deeper conversations about what we can do together. It gives me a chance to sell New Brunswick to every other premier in Canada and let them know what they could be buying from us and how we can participate in their procurement needs. It allows us to find points of alignment and get to know how each other works, what their sticking points are, share policy opportunities and ideas. I think it really means we can do more faster and do more, period.
I'm going to quote you here. I like this line. You said, the comment you made was, friends similarly impatient.
Well, that was in reference to a question that one of the media outlets asked about internal trade and wondering when we would see a new internal trade agreement. And I think we are similarly impatient as premiers who want to get those barriers to internal trade gone, who want to come up with that new Canada Free Trade Agreement that is simple and clear and eliminates every barrier possible, recognizing that we're each unique provinces. We each have a thing, whether it's land in PEI or fish in Newfoundland, that is a little bit, that needs to be treated differently, but everything else has to go. And particularly in the transportation sector, we need to be able to move New Brunswick products to the people in Manitoba or Saskatchewan or BC who really want them without that truck having to go through red tape and barriers and change flags and change first aid kits. So we're all impatient for that work to be done and to bear fruit.
You signed an MOU with Premier Rob Canoe of Manitoba. How could that benefit New Brunswickers? What might they see out of that?
Well, I think anytime that we can introduce a new province to our goods and in such a way that makes it easy for entrepreneurs here who might have thought, it's not worth me learning the regulations of Manitoba and figuring out what different packaging I'd have to create for my product in order to sell it there. Or now they can take the product they're already making, the packaging that they already have, and they can send it to Manitoba to sell to new customers without that added cost or added work. So that just, it expands the market opportunity for New Brunswick's entrepreneurs without adding administrative burden or new cost.
Of course, a lot of focus of the last couple of days has been on the negotiations that are ongoing with the White House. The comment that seems to be resonating is that a good deal is more important than a rush deal. That seems to be the consensus. Am I right there among your group?
That's exactly right. I think we've realized that there is a possibility to end up in a much worse situation than the one that we're in now, while we push to end up in a better situation. So it's figuring out what is that push to get a better deal, to get rid of those tariffs that doesn't risk us finding ourselves in a much worse position. And so the end result is more important than the speediness of the result.
So we shouldn't get hung up on an August 1st deadline. That could come and go.
Well, look, if President Trump has taught us anything, it's that we shouldn't get hung up on anything because he can change his mind at the drop of a hat, and a deal isn't a deal. And so that's the real challenge for all of New Brunswick's entrepreneurs is no matter what happens August 1st, are we going to be able to trust that that's then going to stay in place for any foreseeable length of time? We need to reach a place where we have some confidence that the deal that is struck is set and is going to be adhered to by the President of the United States. And it's hard to say that that's what we're going to have come August 1st.
A number of the premiers seem to telegraph that some kind of tariff will be imposed on Canada. by the United States. We just saw that in the deal that was is being reported today with Japan and the U.S. There's a baseline there. Should we expect that type of look for Canada?
Well, Canada has been under U.S. tariffs for a very long time. This isn't new as much as it might seem new, and the folks in softwood lumber could speak to that. There's different tariffs that have been in place for different sectors, in some cases on and off. The goal is a tariff-free environment, certainly for softwood lumber, but also for all of the Canadian economy. But right now, thankfully, most of New Brunswick's exports are compliant with the U.S., Canada, Mexico agreement, and thus not exposed to the tariffs that the U.S. has applied. And so even their application of those tariffs, we have been exempted from. We want to continue to retain those protections, the fact that being USMCA compliant means that we're not subject to those tariffs, but we don't want new tariffs. We don't want them to grow. And ideally, we want them to be eliminated.
There was some talk in the news conference, I think it was Premier Daniel Smith who brought it up, that those negotiations of what was NAFTA, USMCA, CUSMA, whatever you want to call it, could be delayed. It was generally understood that that might be next year, but that could be pushed back. There was talk about that?
Well, I think if I can clarify from what I understood from Danielle, there was some hope that we might bump up the renegotiation of the USMCA and start to get into it now, even though it's scheduled to happen next year. So I think right now it's still on track to resume next year, hopefully early next year into the spring. But some folks have been pushing that, like, let's get at that table now. Let's see if we can get a new U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement that we believe, as I said before, that the Trump administration will honor for many years. That's the kind of stability that our economy and our entrepreneurs are looking for.
Premier Holt, thank you for your time from Muskoka. Safe travels, and we'll talk to you when you're home.
Thanks very much, Todd. Talk to you later.
You bet. We'll take a time out. Lots of news still on the other side. Stay with us.